Hello, and thank you for joining us on Redefining Real Estate. Today, we have a great program in store for you. Today, we have guest Jackie Pearson with Great Western Home Loans. Super excited about having Jackie and my co-host, great friend of mine, Lyndon Wilson, the founder of The Difference, with us today as well.
Good morning, Brian.
Lyndon, how are you?
I'm good. Always good.
Lyndon
You
will be
there?
with us in just a moment.
I'm here.
So
Can you hear me?
with this, the new things that we're going through, we have to sharpen our tech skills a little bit.
Brian, are
Lyndon,
you
how are you
here?
doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I've been here. I've been talking to you. You just couldn't
You
hear
know
me
what?
or
I
see
think
me.
it's probably my internet connection. I know we've talked about that before, and I'm eventually going to call my internet provider, AT&T. They're a small company, so
Yeah. They're hard to get in touch with.
so we'll get that fixed up. But let's get Jackie on and start rock and rolling.
All right.
Jackie,
Hey,
how are you
hey
doing?
guys, how are you? I'm
Hi,
good.
Jackie.
Hey, Lyndon, good to
Well,
see you guys again.
You
This is
too.
awesome. I'm excited.
well, this, you know what, we're excited about having you. I know Jackie and I have spent several meetings and talking and really resonated from a lot of different angles. And Jackie, tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing right now, and we'll start from there.
Well, I love it. Well, my name is Jackie Bob Pearson. Gosh, I'm not a native to Texas, but I've been here 11 years, originally from California. I cheered for the Dallas Cowboys for 5 football seasons. That was a pretty awesome and unique piece of my life and I still get to work with them. So I MC a lot of the Cowboys events and do some tailgate parties and hosting events. And I still direct the little junior Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. They're adorable. But as far as real estate, I work for Great Western Home Loans. I'm the marketing director with them. I've been in real estate for 10 plus years, whether it was as an investor, as a realtor, in title, now with a lender. So I feel like I understand different pieces of the business. That gives me kind of a unique perspective on what's happening now, what folks should be doing to be kind of financially savvy. And yeah, I love working with agents. Brian is one of my favorite guys to chit chat and pick his brain, and we think alike. And so I'm happy he's having me here today to kind of share some of my tips and tricks and just advice on what I think consumers probably need to learn a little bit more about.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about going from like a title and then working for a lender and working as an investor and working as a realtor, then you really are looking at this whole industry from different lenses. How has that helped you cultivate a new acumen or your business acumen in handling the real estate process right now?
You know what? It's been really unique. I should have said also that while I was cheering, I've always kind of had this, I call it looking for opportunities. And it's been in my brain, and I'm always kind of scanning the room and scanning industries. And so I did start a company while I was cheering with the Dallas Cowboys because I saw an opportunity there. I would say that experience alone, starting a brand from scratch and being in charge of marketing and production and, foreign trade, we manufacture overseas. When I tiptoed back into real estate, it is essentially, no matter how you look at it, you are a business owner. You're starting something from scratch. You have to build it. You have to brand it. And so I love that. And it really did touch every piece of the industry that you just mentioned. When I was in title, I had to brand myself. I needed to know what I was going to offer to agents for them to bring their contracts to, my title company. As a realtor, you brand yourself and you have to be of service and create your marketing pieces. And so I do feel like I've learned a lot, especially when it came to the investing piece. I would say starting a company that my husband and I have, Pearson Property Group, where we primarily try to find financially savvy ways to build wealth. all of those things combined, it's just kind of exploded. But I will say, Brian, it started really with just looking for opportunities. And that's kind of one of my big takeaways that I wanted to share is whether you're in real estate, you own a hair shop, or you want to brand an item, look for the opportunity, look for the hole in the market, and really capitalize on that.
Excellent. I love the creativity. Lyndon, what are your thoughts?
A million questions, but because Brian, you know how fascinated I am with the whole branding and marketing aspect, because I believe that it is key to success. One of the things that I've said, one of the reasons I created The Difference is to help people get exposure, because I firmly believe that businesses don't fail or struggle because they have a bad product or service. They fail or struggle because no one or not enough people knew who they were and what they were doing. Branding and marketing is key. So tell me, if you would, and I don't want to get too far off of redefining real estate and Brian's topic, but I do want to know, being around and running an international company, what are some of the branding mistakes that you see, Jackie, in the real estate industry? Where are we failing? What are we overlooking or maybe undervaluing?
I would say when it came to the real estate industry, some of the mistakes I think we are creating carbon copies of our favorite agents instead of being authentically who you are. I have read so many bios that all have the same lingo, just kind of thrown in the blender, spun around, instead of owning exactly who you are. It's so funny. My husband and I, we watch every real estate show under the sun. And there's an episode and there's these guys and they are so authentic in who they are. One is very arrogant, but he's so arrogant and that's what you're going to get. The other guy's kind of loosey-goosey and he's wearing house shoes all the time. But everyone knows who they are and they're probably household names at this point because they are themselves instead of trying to replicate somebody else. So I'd say a huge branding and marketing mistake is figure out who you are and own it. And the people that want to work with you, they're going to work with you. And if you lose business off of it, it was never your business to be had. That would probably be the first thing that I see. Yeah.
Great point. One of the things that I have noticed in studying, branding and marketing is that, as you said, kind of the arrogance, kind of that characteristic sometimes that may put off a group of people. If you're authentic and being who you are, a lot of times you can still win them over. A lot of times they appreciate the authenticity, even if you got a little bit of something that may not be as comfortable as some of us are, looking for.
And you know what, Linda, you mentioned something. The reason why you started the show was for that. And I have to say kudos, because when I started my cheerleading company, I thought exposure. And so you're right. I would say another thing agents need to do is you can't make money if you're a secret agent. You need to be reaching out to people like yourself that are doing podcasts, radio shows. Even if you're uncomfortable with it, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. But being a secret agent and being afraid to post about it, start social media platforms, starting a YouTube, getting on podcasts, that to me is another mistake people are making. And so fortunate for people like you that are doing this and giving them a platform to get the word out and grow their business.
I agree.
And I think things that I want to interject here, Lyndon, on the authenticity. I think it's really key. And I think that is a fantastic point, but being comfortable in your own skin. I mean, you don't have to be arrogant. You don't have to be conceited. You don't have to be pompous or all the crazy words out there. You can actually just feel real comfortable about you. And that's something that I admire and I look for in people. They're just comfortable being them. And those are the people that have taken ownership from a personal development, I believe. And it's also it reflects in their professional development where Jackie, you mentioned something prior to that was, you're when you get into real estate, you are actually a business owner. You need to understand the marketing. You need to understand the customer complaints. You need to understand HR. You need to understand the accounting. You need to understand the metrics of it. You need to understand market share. All of those things plus more.
Yes.
You are a business owner. And then when you get comfortable with it, you don't have to put your stuff in a blender and be like everybody else, which I think is great. Hence, fact, redefining. So, Lyndon, go ahead with yours. I want to throw that authenticity side.
No, I'm glad you did, because and we said this before, Brian. I have a thought, and you sometimes are having the same thought, and we go the same direction. But I was going to say before is that when Jackie was talking about whether you're comfortable or not, you've got to do it. And bold, our success favors the bold.
Bingo.
It does.
Again.
And you've got to be you somewhere we have to get comfortable being bold. Now that's a never-ending growth process, I do believe. But Jackie, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, I asked this question a lot. When you were talking about doing the cookie cutter branding and marketing, right? There's not a lot of, I hate to say it this way, and I don't mean this to be negative, but there's not a lot of thought that goes into imitating someone else, right? And really not trying to, and Brian, we've talked about this, having the self-awareness to determine who you are and kind of reveal to yourself who you are, and working through that to develop your brand requires some self-evaluation and some self-awareness. Would you agree? And asking a lot of questions of the people around you, like, Jackie, who am I? Who do you see me as? And getting some feedback. I think we're scared of that. Would you agree?
You just nailed it. You just nailed it. Sometimes we are harder on ourselves. Sometimes we're maybe too easy on ourselves. But if you ask your circle of trusted folks, who do you see me as? Or if you even just really listen, because they'll tell you without you even having to ask. I have been told a handful of times, you are so bubbly. Are you ever in a bad mood? So I already know the energy and kind of what I put out there. But know who you are. And you said something, sometimes not only do agents kind of do the carbon copy, but as soon as they get their license, they feel like they have to brand themselves right away without doing that self-discovery. So they come up with a logo for their marketing, and it has a house and a set of keys, and they kind of do the standard thing instead of thinking, really, you might find out who you are your first 2 months in. So there's also this sense of don't rush it. Like, you might end up loving commercial real estate or wanting to be a leasing specialist, but so don't be so quick to brand yourself. Get into the market, kind of feel it out, and see where you gravitate towards. Yeah.
Well, could we put a phrase in there? Go as you grow.
Ooh.
So you're actually in that discovery moment, and I've been into it several times, especially being an entrepreneur and utilizing different skill sets or going through different channels of the industry. You begin to see things different, and you have to go through that discovery. You have to go through the deep dive introspective approach on asking, if I'm in this equation, what do I bring to the table? And then how would I see myself in this aspect of the industry impacting or being, we use the word highest to best use a lot in real estate for a home, but are we operating highest and best use for us personally? Our acumen, our skill sets, our gifts, our talents, our ability to communicate or negotiate, instead of just taking it off the shelf. Well, this is what I've seen from so-and-so down the hall, or this what I saw from this person. And I just, again, blended all that stuff. Not that you can't take other content, but it should spark some creativity and some innovation inside of you that would cause you to better yourself in order for you to be better for others.
Brian, you said something earlier when we were talking about being a business owner. And I would be remiss if I didn't say this. A solid business owner, in my opinion, they know their strengths, but they also know what they're really bad at. And in the beginning, you might have to wear all of the hats. We've all done it. But eventually you should kind of start to look at, okay, I need to build out and build my team of people that can help support in the areas that I'm not good. If I know that I'm not good at social media, and that's kind of where a lot of the home search journey starts, maybe I need to get with someone, and that doesn't even have to be in the real estate industry. If you see someone that is doing something else with their yoga studio and they have all this internet marketing and you see them post, get with them and figure out. So don't be the owner of all things. Delegating and kind of putting together your crew, for lack of a better word, it's really going to help you grow exponentially. So just wanted to say that you're a business owner, but you're not alone, and you shouldn't try to do everything, especially the things that you're not good at.
I've got a question on that. Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead.
No, well, I wanted to ask Jackie a question on that. That one of the things, and Brian said before that I've been coaching for a while. I've been studying people for a lot longer than that. And I've been studying successful people. That's why I call this show The Difference, because I believe there's commonalities that people have that are ultra successful. When we start to delegate, how important is it in delegating that we have some sort of understanding about what we're about to delegate so that we know we have the right person for the job? Because if we've not taken time to have some sort of understanding of what that particular occupation or maybe it's someone we're hiring to fill a need, if we don't understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing, we may hire the absolute worst wrong person. And for an example, there's a lot of people that hire social media marketing companies for their real estate industry. And the people that they hire have zero clue about the real estate industry. They can post a lot, they can get a lot of followers and likes, but those people may not be the audience and the clientele that they're looking for. Therefore, a lot of money was spent and nothing happened. So talk a little bit about how you feel about that.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And what I was going to say, I was getting all juiced up as you were talking. I just yesterday had a call with an agent, and I love doing one-on-ones, helping them dissect their business and figure out areas of growth and maybe where money shouldn't be spent. And so I wanted to dive into her lead generation. What are you doing? And she mentioned she has a guy that is in charge of it. She's paying him a salary. And I said, okay, so what are you on pace to do for the rest of the year? Well, he runs all the back end stuff, so I'm not really sure. And I said, okay, well, how many leads were you able to convert in, the last 6 months? Well, I have to double check on that. And I said, okay, well, where are you campaigning? Where's your market? Are you doing it by zip codes or by counties? I was astonished at how much control that she had let go, to the point where there's delegating, but you still got to know your business and you still got to know your numbers. And you need to know what's being delegated. And so I couldn't agree with you more. You have to know a little bit about what your need is, do your own due diligence, interview about 3 or 4 different people, get their feedback, and then take it all in and make the appropriate decision. But it's not just dumping, I'm horrible with accounting, so I need you to run my numbers and I'll tell you my commissions and put some away for taxes and I hope it all works out. Or, here's my budget for a campaign, go run with it. You need to know, what are we on pace to do and what does that look like? And based on, X, what does Y and Z look like? And so yes, you're still a business owner. You need to know the nuts and bolts, but when it comes to the everyday little activities, those things are what you want to delegate. But if that person should leave, your business shouldn't miss a beat. If they leave, you should know enough about your social media accounts to be able to kind of pick up until you can redelegate. And oftentimes I see stuff like that. I don't even know the username and password. I've had someone doing it. This is your business. It's wild.
That's scary. That is scary.
To look at that, and we teach a lot, especially in the entrepreneur world or in the business coaching. Hey, listen, you need to learn how to delegate. You need to learn how to let go of that control of doing that. So the perfectionists have a really, really hard or difficult time doing that. But I think too many times we create a synonym between delegate and abdicate. You can delegate responsibility, but you cannot abdicate responsibility and be successful. You just cannot do it, because when the breakdown happens and you're not doing it, you're not managing it well, then what happens is if someone else takes over and then leaves for whatever reason, because life throws you curveballs, and then you're in a lurch because you didn't manage correctly. So I wrote down basically a process just while you and Lyndon were talking. One is do. I think we, instead of just having a fear or understanding I'm really not good at social media, which, you know what, I can raise my hand and say I'm not the best. I'm not the best at a couple of things. It's hard for me to put two reds together and be a interior designer or a stager. I'm out on that deal. But I know that. But the cool thing about it is, if I can Google it and I can read a little bit about it and understand some basic premises of whatever I'm not good at, it doesn't mean that I have to strengthen that weakness, because that's futile there. But it doesn't mean that I have to be ignorant about the weakness. And that's the key part. It's ignorant, meaning lack of knowledge. Well, we weren't called to be ignorant. We were called to have knowledge on it. I have knowledge to this extent, but you, Jackie, you start with my top is your bottom, and you can bring it higher, and I can learn more stuff. So we create a manageable process that we can keep the metrics, right? And we understand the ins and outs and the flow of it. And then that will allow us to oversee it. So if I do, and I have to do my due diligence and research and create it, then I create a process, then I oversee it, then that is delegatable, if that's a word.
I think it should be a word. It should definitely
be a
word.
If it's not a word, it's going to be a word today. So because our the younger generation, millennials, they're creating words every day, or acronyms. So I'm just going to create a word just because I can, and that's where we are today. So
that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, we're just going to do it. And
for you guys, I know that you've been coaching a lot, probably, longer than I've even been in the industry. Have you seen it? And, is it as often as I think it is, where there is this lack of understanding that, yes, you're a real estate agent, but you are an owner of your business, which means there's buckets that you need to be paying attention to every day. Is that kind of the normal? And are you helping to coach and guide people through that?
Yes.
Jackie, to answer your question, yes, on both of that, that's a resounding yes. I created a 7-week course for agents when I was doing the full-time coaching, and it went through the marketing mechanics, it went through market share, it went through the metrics. How are you supposed to set this up? How do you calculate your metrics? When should you look at them? At all your management numbers, you looked at your target audience. Did you identify a target audience? Because if you didn't identify a target audience, then your message looks like it came out of the blender, because you don't know who you're talking to. So you identify your message and then your core values. And I mean, we have a fairly extensive course on that, which is awesome. And I know, Lyndon, you created a few courses in that regards as well.
I did, and Jackie, you're 100% correct. And one of the things that I have witnessed over the 18 years is that a lot of people get into real estate and they're coming out of the corporate world. And if you've watched any of these shows and you ever watch any again, you're going to hear me talk. When I talk about the difference, the first thing I think is mindset. I think you have to have the right mindset. Number one, you got to have a mindset that things are going to be tough, and how do I overcome that? How do I work through that? But the first part is, I think you have to have an entrepreneurial mindset, which does enable you and equip you to handle the difficulties. And I think so many people come out of corporate world with an employee mindset where they're told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, when to go home, when to show up, all the different things, but we really don't have a boss now, right? So you have to get into the employee mindset that I am my own boss, and that requires a certain amount of discipline. And you've got to be able to put on all the different hats of marketing and sales and everything like that. But you still have to be able to drive yourself every day, regardless of what the feeling is. And so
Yeah.
there is a huge challenge for people that have never had that whole load of responsibility put on their shoulders, and how they've got to change their mindset, and how they have to approach work and all the challenges every day. And we've got to be very, very careful on what we put off till tomorrow, because tomorrow is going to be a whole new day of new challenges.
Man, I love that. And you know what? I have a friend that I'm kind of mentoring, for lack of a better word. She's going through school right now. And I just said, listen, if you need help figuring out how to study for your tests and do all these things. So anyway, she lives in my neighborhood, and I've been meeting with her once a week because she's so excited about getting her license. And we kind of talked about that, but you worded it so much better. So I may steal it and chat with her later.
Go ahead.
But you are your own boss, which means if you don't think that you have the self-discipline, then open up your calendar and block out things that you need to be doing. So essentially, you're being your boss the night before. So when you wake up, you're like, okay, what did the boss say I have to do? Okay, I need to make calls for 2 hours. Okay, I'm going to go do this for 2 hours. Okay, I'm going to get comfortable running comps for an hour. Like, you have to be so disciplined, and you just said it perfectly. That was great. It's a mindset, 100%.
Right.
It's total structure of your day, and we teach that as well, because if you look at the employee mindset, the employee is focusing on one aspect of that company. Whether you're HR director, then you focus on the HR. You don't necessarily focus on the accounting. You don't focus on the marketing. You don't focus on sales. You don't focus on the transactional side, if we want to call it that way, or the process side of the equation. Your lane is XYZ, whatever your title was, and that's your job description and your responsibilities. As an entrepreneur, we have different lanes that we would love to stay in. The, hey, listen, I just want to talk to people. I love talking to people. Well, that's great, but if you don't incorporate those other lanes in your scheduling, then your business doesn't sustain and doesn't grow properly. So that's where you'll abdicate more responsibility than you'll delegate it. So you actually have to create those disciplines in order to leverage yourself later. Because if you come on board on marketing, Jackie, and I'm doing this, I should already have a process and a protocol mapped out with things that we've measured. And then you come in there and you look at that. If you need to modify it and adjust it, that's fantastic. Just make it better. Mm-hmm. But if it's producing 10 leads every week, and our we're being able to convert 30% of those, that's great. Well, now you know the bar.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. Well, if we're going to talk numbers, we might as well talk about fun numbers. We're going to create one lead every 10 weeks, and we're going to have a 2% conversion. That's horrible. Nobody wants that. So
I kind of want to dive back into real estate and get y'all's opinion. We talked earlier, I think before we got on air, about investing and using money wisely. And Brian and we talked about it, and I just recently really started to divvy up my investing portfolio and learning more about how to make the assets that I already have generate more money. Do you guys coach any of your agents or even just clients and customers about turning real estate into wealth, and how was that received? I feel like I'm interviewing you guys. Sorry, but you're the coaches, so I want to know it
all. You are on that one, and I do have a workshop, and we've talked about this before, Jackie. The Educated Buyer, Educated Seller series on what it's not what you have that makes a difference. It's what you do with what you have that makes a difference, and we share with people how to utilize what is already, let's say, the equity in their house to create additional cash flow, create income, build wealth, utilizing real estate. Because I believe, even if we're talking about ownership in business, you have home ownership. What are you doing with your home that it's scalable and it is able to create like an economic impact or a social impact? and you can create that with property and land and investing. It is fantastic. So we do put that out on the table. We educate the people that want to be educated on it, Jackie, and we hopefully we get a lot of hands raised and going, I'd like to learn more about my property. I'd like to learn what are my multiple options here.
Yeah.
So what got you into investing? No, that's the question of the day.
What got me into it? You know, it's probably the most cliche answer, but I think this book really opened a lot of folks' eyes, and it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And you know, I didn't physically read it. I was listening to it on Audible. I used to have a long commute into work, and so that was my morning drive, just listening to it, and it made so much sense. And the irony is, I had already owned a piece of land, and I was kind of frustrated because it was just an expense, or at least I thought that. You know, I'm just shelling out money every month to cover, you know, the interest on it and the taxes. And I was listening to this book, and I thought that land should be making me money instead of feeling like, you know, I'm losing money on it every month. And so I put some of the stuff that I heard right into action, because I had it for so long. It had appreciated, and you know, I wasn't at that time even staying on top of that. So then I thought, all right, if I have this land that's appreciated, and I bought it thinking I'd build a house on it one day, but I took emotion out, and I said, let's think money, get emotion out of there. You know, at first I bought it picturing my little children running around and all that stuff, and I said, you know what, if I take the emotion out of it and I sell this land, and I implement a 1031 exchange, which I learned through reading that book, I can take all of that profit and put it into something that could cash flow. And so I'd say I probably finished reading that book. It was the end of April. And, you know, within 2 months, I sold the land, identified a property in Frisco, did the 1031 exchange, got renters in there. And now instead of spending the $700 a month to carry the land, I'm cash flowing $900. And, you know, just now looking at the numbers and seeing the equity the equity play that is happening with the property in Frisco. And, you know, it's just, but it's almost like you don't know what you don't know. And for me, the light bulb went off just through reading a book. And hopefully anyone that goes to your seminars, Brian, a light bulb will go off that, you know, I went from spending money each month, which I'm glad I did. I bought the land, I sat on it, I let it appreciate. But then I was quick to flip the land, take advantage of the 1031, buy a property, cash flow, and then hopefully we'll do that again.
Right. But the knowledge that you gained in that monthly payment on that land, with the appreciation in it, and then learning about the 1031 tax exchange, it really didn't go for naught, so to speak. It wasn't all in vain. And then were you able to utilize some tax deductions on that land?
Absolutely. And again, I think it goes back to a lot of the times you don't know what you don't know. And now moving forward, I think any property that I'll buy in the future, I'm not looking at it as this emotional pull. And I think a smart buyer, you know, sometimes we kind of, I can see. And, you know, it's a business move. It's the largest purchase that some people might ever make. So you kind of have to take that emotion out of it and think, you know, do I see myself here for 5 years? All right, what do the school districts look like? Is this something that I could rent out in the future? Is this something that I wanted to, you know, pull out money? So really just getting with an experienced realtor. And yes, you love it for your current lifestyle, but it has to be a business decision. And that would be kind of my number one advice for anyone searching for a home. Get with an agent that knows their numbers and can talk about what this looks like in 5 years and 10 years. Because I think, I don't know the stats, y'all probably know it better than me, but people are moving, every 7 years or something?
It's typical. 7
Yep.
7 to 12.
Buy smart, you know. Buy smart. Buy in an area that if you want to build up a rental portfolio, you can say, you know what, I'll rent this out in 5 years and then move on to the next. Or I'm seeing the year-over-year growth in this area, so that makes me feel confident that when we get that 7-year itch, we're going to be in a safe place. So,
right,
love it, and I love that you guys are keeping people on it.
When we're looking at investing, you're really looking at you're owning your own business. Again, you got to go back to ownership. And, I don't do because I don't know is really not an excuse anymore. There are so many channels, so to speak, on how to get that knowledge from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Fantastic book. Read that years ago. My children have actually read it and gone to the seminars. They love it. My boys just go hog wild on Robert Kiyosaki. And then which is fantastic. I love it. It's neat to see the kids learn, but it's that, hey, listen, I need to do some research. I need to ask questions. I need to read a book or watch a video, do something outside the box, because I can tell you that if I had the knowledge base when I bought my first home, and instead of just buying the typical standard 3-bedroom, two bath, 2-car garage on a corner lot, and go, wow, I live in a home, but you don't know the difference between the apartment and the home. Mm-hmm. And the apartment, everybody took care of everything, and the home, you actually have to do home maintenance, and you have to take care of it. And you might have to fix a sink, and you might have to fix a ceiling fan or whatever it is, which is fine. Learn how to do it. And then in that learning curve, you can actually flip that, Jackie, just like you did with that piece of land. And instead of paying $700 a month for education, you can flip that into a rental property. And now what you're making $900 a month cash flow. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So your education paid, now you're profitable. So it's all in the way you look at it. And you're investing in yourself, but you're also investing in property. You can invest in yourself and invest in your business. You can invest in yourself and invest in stocks and bonds. But we have those opportunities available to us. We just sometimes don't capitalize because we've used that excuse for so long. Well, we just don't know how to do that. That looks scary. So I was reading in my devotional this morning, and it was really interesting. But one line in the devotion was, it was based out of Psalms, and I think it was chapter 63 in Psalms. It was, God, deliver me from the fear of my enemies. So it was really interesting how this broke it down. A lot of times we get stagnated because of the fear of something. It's not actually the situation or circumstance that happens. Oh, me too. Me too. We're afraid of it something happening versus it actually happening. Somebody afraid of getting in a car wreck. Well, you didn't get in a car wreck. So the situation, you never got through that situation. Or I'm afraid of breaking going to play football. If you're afraid of breaking a bone, Lennon, should you play football?
No.
You should not. You just shouldn't, because you're just going to stand there.
It's like a motorcycle accident. It's not a question of if it's going to happen; it's when it's going to happen. So I've got a question. Talking about fear, Brian and Jackie. Are we, in today's world, especially? I think before there was so much information at our fingertips, I think that 15, 20 years ago there was a fear that I don't know, and now it's out there. All the information is out there. The groups are out there. There's seminars like Brian's having that are out there. Are we afraid to look uninformed when we go into those groups, or are we afraid to ask someone because it just looks like everybody has all this knowledge except for us? And that's my first question. My second question, I want to go back to mindset. Are we still, as much as we've advanced in the market and what's going on, do we still have a mindset like what Brian kind of said, that home ownership is just one little caveat removed from renting, except now I have to mow my own yard? Have we not really transformed our mindset on what the potential is for building equity and what we can do when we do build equity?
Ooh, that's good. Okay, so I'm going to work backwards. I think that the general public is better because of all the information and the internet and TV shows. So I do think that there's a better understanding of what home ownership can do, maybe even to a fault. I think that sometimes what we see on TV makes flipping a house look easy. It makes owning a home look easy. It makes being a realtor look overly glamorous. And, people are getting into things that that is not real estate. That is a chopped and screwed highlight reel. You didn't see negotiations and contracts and, 8,000 walkthroughs. And they also don't even know the real lifestyle. They're like, I've heard it a million times. I got into real estate because the flexibility and the freedom. Flexibility and freedom. Every realtor I talk to is working nights and weekends. So I'm like, if that's freedom to you. So I do think that people are aware. I think almost to a fault, because what is being put out there makes it look a little bit easier than it is. Buy a house, flip it, make 70,000. Not always the case. And, so yeah, I think that the gap has been bridged. I don't know if it's been bridged with the right information. And then your first question was, remind me.
Are we afraid of looking uninformed because it looks like everybody else has all the answers? Like, I think it goes to what you were just saying, Jackie. When I look and I see all the highlight reels of everybody's, success stories, right? Yeah. I'm left to think, wow, I must be dumb because everybody else makes it look so easy and I don't have a clue what's going on. I'm afraid to go out and ask because it looks like it everybody's making it look like this is just something you ought to know. And
I will tell you the best thing that has happened to me, and it happened in my 30s, it took some time, was being okay with not having all the answers. I used to feel like if I was in a room, I had to know the answers and I had to have the knowledge base. And now I am so confident with having a conversation. Like, I have no idea what you just said. What does that mean? Okay, hold on. Let's take it back further because I really want to understand this. And so I really think that even comes with comfortability of who you are and being okay with not knowing all the answers.
Agreed.
But at least showing that you want to learn. But I agree. Sometimes the security blanket is to pretend that you know everything and you can hold the same conversations. But I think it really shows a lot when someone's able to step back and say, I've never even heard of a 1034. Wait, what is that? Talk to me about it. I'd love to learn more. Even if you're an agent, like, say you've never heard of it. The one of the reasons I also know what that is because a friend of mine sold some property. It was an investment in California, and kept all the money and, had to pay the property gains tax and didn't learn later until someone else mentioned to him that, that money, what did you do with it? And he's like, oh, I turned around and I used it to buy a condo down in North Hollywood. And they're like, so you didn't wait a minute. And he realized he had lost a lot of money. And so as soon as I heard that story from him and I'm reading the book, I was like, whoa. So again, being okay with not knowing up front and just asking those questions, I don't see anything wrong with it. I actually appreciate people that do that a lot more.
It's a lot better. And so one, it goes back to what we originally said. Just be comfortable with you. Be comfortable in your own skin, which is great. I ask a lot of questions and I ask a ton. And I know that it even frustrates some of the people around me. They're like, oh my gosh, why are you asking this many questions? I'm like, this is me. I'm going to ask the questions and I'm perfectly fine with it. If you're not fine with answering the questions, then I am perfectly fine with moving on to someone else that is. I am. No harm, no foul. If you just don't have the time to answer them, good. There are 7 billion people on this planet. We can go ask a question. The second thing Absolutely. That I wanted to reiterate what Lyndon said. Success favors the bold. Even if you don't know, that boldness and courage and to stand up, to ask the question, to push back, to respectfully disagree, to raise your hand and say, hey, wait just a minute here. That doesn't add up to me. Those numbers aren't adding up. I appreciate the luxurious, the glamorous life that you put on social media as a real estate agent, but tell me your day-to-day. What does Monday look like to you? What does Sunday night look like to you at 10:39 at night when somebody texts you. I had somebody text me at 9:30 the other night. It was actually later than that. They wanted information about my listing. So guess what? I texted them back at that time and said, I'll call you in the morning. which is fine. I mean, I responded. Yeah. So it's those things that you get into we really want to know the real, or do we just want to look at the cool Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest posts out there and look, wow, everything is shiny cars and beautiful houses. You just didn't realize the legwork in it. So you're to your point, Jackie, some of the things that we're seeing on television about real estate, they make it look really, really cool because they can fit it into a 23-minute episode. Yeah. And they are rocking. I mean, those 23 minutes they make it look really cool and easy. But
they really, really do. And it's a false reality. And that's why I love working in marketing at Great Western. I get to meet with agents that are 2 months in to 2 years in. And these are the pushbacks that I'm giving them. And these are the real life scenarios, because it's a lot of work to be a real estate agent. And I want them to know that and have a realistic expectation of the workload and all the no's that they're going to hear before they get that first yes. Mm-hmm. And it's just wild. Now, I was thinking about success favors the bold, and I just had to, honestly, I was thinking about my own life, and every time that I found myself successful, there was a bold move ahead of it. And this has been really good for me in my spirit, because now I'm kind of going back and, I raised my hand when I said sometimes I operate in fear. But anytime, I have a beautiful daughter, she's 6 months old. All I can think is, if that bold move, I lost my job in California. I was laid off, and I sat home and I said, what am I going to do next? And then I went to apply for some other jobs in the same field. But I knew I had this big, totally at the time, unrealistic dream of cheering for the Dallas Cowboys. I'd watched this TV show and I knew how hard it was, and I knew the environment. And so I sat there with my computer. Am I going to search for a job in the Bay Area? Or am I going to book a one-way ticket where I don't have a place to live and I don't have family and I wouldn't have a car, but I could just show up and see what the heck happens? And that one split-second decision to buy a one-way ticket to Dallas turned into me making the team. And then on that same football field, I met my husband. He's not a player, so that let's just get that out there. That's against the rules. But a different event happening at the stadium, I met my husband on that football field, and now I'm still in Texas, and we have a beautiful daughter. So as Brian, you were talking, and you reiterated Lyndon's point, success favors the bold. I was like, man, that was a bold and very scary thing. And I wish I could make decisions like that every day. And I can't even imagine the success that I'd have in other areas of my life if I had the power within to say, you know what, this is scary, but maybe that's why I need to do it. There's something in my head that said, you can't do it. So now I need to step in and say, oh, yes, you can, and get it done. And so thank you for that, Lyndon. And thank you for reiterating it, because I just had a whole moment and testimony in my spirit that it really is true. Success favors the bold.
Something else that goes along with being bold, though, is I think having faith. I think you got to have faith in order to be bold, because we don't know what's out there when we exercise our boldness. And so we've got to have faith that it's gonna be okay. Even if we don't succeed, it's gonna be okay, right? So I think that goes a long way, and that's a great story, Jackie. I love those. I love those stories. I really do.
It's a fantastic story.
And I think you're right. Even if things change or pivot in your boldness, it might just pivot you the direction that God had already called you to do, but you had to make that first step to even get the information or the knowledge to be aware of the pivot. So just the movement of going forward and knowing that it could take you left or right, but you won't even know that until you take that first leap. So I love it all.
Absolutely. So we can look at the rewards of it and go, you know what, that's exactly what I want. But then the reality is, you know what, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take probably a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears, and it's going to be all right. I'm just going to take that leap today. I'm going to step out of the boat. And I remember a story years ago when I got into full-time ministry. I was working with a lender, and I really just felt, you know what? I need to make my move. I need to go. I wasn't married at the time. I don't have any children. And I actually quit my job without a place of ministry to go into. And I waited. It was 2 weeks and 10 days. That's 24 days. And then I got a call from two pastors, one in Texas and one in Georgia. And I said, well, God, I guess this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Georgia because it's going to take more faith, because I can't just turn around if it doesn't work. But you go through those steps. So I would encourage people to take that bold step. Take the bold step to help you in your career. Take the bold step that's going to help you promote the financial well-being of your family. Yeah, using real estate, utilizing, get to know real estate, get to know stocks and bonds, get to know investing, get to know how to make that money work for you, so you can leave an inheritance for your children and your children's children. And those are just great things. And I love this conversation. One, be comfortable with yourself. We talked about that mindset. And again, Lyndon, I'm gonna use that. Success favors the bold. Did you come up with that all by yourself?
I guess. I mean, I don't remember reading it. I don't remember reading it anywhere, but it's just something that came to my mind as we were talking.
You know what I live by? It's kind of similar. Yours is better than mine, but I live by this. If you can be successful at one thing, you can be successful at anything. And that keeps me going, even when I feel like I'm not doing great in other areas of my life. I'm like, I know what success looks like. There is a formula, and it's called, first you need the vision, then you need the drive, then you need to work like HE double hockey stick to get it done. And if you know that algorithm, that structure, this is so cheesy, but y'all, I'm just being honest because we're family. My husband is going to be embarrassed that I'm even admitting it. Everything I do, I think about being a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader, because it was the hardest thing I have ever done. My spirit was tested, my mental, my physical being, all while camera crews were in my face documenting it and knowing that the world would watch it when the show premiered. It was the hardest thing. And everything I do, down to, I've been working out with my husband, trying to lose my little baby weight. And he knows that that's my trigger. And he's like, Jackie, you made the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. You're telling me you can't run 30 more meters? And I'm like, you're right, I can. Everything I do that feels hard. So, and I say that to motivate someone. We've all been successful at least one thing. Heck, if you make your bed in the morning, success,
Right.
You can be successful at one thing. You can switch on your brain, and whatever it took for you to get that one thing done, apply it to whatever's in front of you. And mine happens to be the Dallas Cowboys. And that little piece, I take it everywhere I go. If I feel like, man, I'm tired and I got 8 more reports to do that I need to send to my CEO, I'm like, you've been through worse. You made the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And I'm like, so, figure out what your trigger is, because we've all done one thing, even if it's small, apply it, get what's in front of you done. If you've been successful at one thing, you can be successful at anything.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
Awesome. That is good.
Dallas Cowboys, we lost. That's okay. It's all right.
Yeah.
Still early.
You know what? So on the other note is the Dallas Stars are going to the Stanley Cup Finals, which is kind of
I saw that.
Yes.
So excited.
And they didn't give up. They were down. They were down at 1 goal going into the third period. So they came back and won in overtime. So to segue from what you were saying, that if you know success and you know the formula, and you've been successful with one thing in your life, you can be successful with anything, is what you said. So it's that determination not to quit. Don't give up before you get the success. Just go for it. And
that reminder, again, I'm taking us back to the very beginning. know who you are. You know who you are. You know what you're capable of. Don't let a little bump, drive you off the course. So owning and knowing who you are and what you're capable of. Key to being a top realtor, key to owning your own business, key to overcoming obstacles. I mean, it applies to everything, in my opinion. If you know who you are and you're authentic in it, nothing can stop you at all.
Let me ask you both this real quick. And I know, Brian, we don't have much time left. We got about 5 minutes, but how synonymous to success is a person that loves being challenged?
Ooh.
I mean, if you're addicted or attracted to challenges, regardless of where they are, how synonymous is that? I mean, because I talk about the difference, right, in the commonalities. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I just thought of. I wonder if we start looking at successful people, how many of them actively seek out new challenges for themselves?
You know what? I don't think I would have ever put those two together. But as I'm replaying successful people and what their life looks like, they love a challenge. And
they're not satisfied unless there's a challenge in their life.
It's so funny that you said that, because I didn't use the word challenge, but I like to speak at high schools. And so I went and I was speaking at a high school about 2 years ago. And I never try to overthink what my message is going to be. I try to, I feel like I fill the room and then whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen, And I got there and I didn't know what I was going to speak about. And the God took over. And my message to these graduating seniors was, never stop asking what's next. Yes, you're here and you may have an acceptance letter to college, but as you're tiptoeing towards that college graduation, the first thing you should say is, what's next? And then when you have that college degree, then you should say, all right, what's next? And then you're working for someone, what's next? Like, continue. Things should be sparking and flying like crazy. And that's essentially always wanting the challenge. And I have always done that. And I used to think, gosh, I'm getting bored with things really quickly. But no, as soon as I feel like I got it, I'm like, okay, what can I do next? Okay, what can I do next? What's the next challenge going to be? And even though I'm done with NFL cheerleading, if you guys knew all the side things, it's like, all right, what can I do next? How can I impact the industry? I don't need the uniform, but I still have a platform. What can I be doing to make sure the ladies that are going to come up after me, and so it is, what's next? What's next? What's next? And I love that. Good, Lyndon. Good.
That was a great word, Lyndon. And I would happen to definitely agree with you that there is a challenge. I think when things become so easy and we tend to let down our guard and become lackadaisical or lethargic or just the run of the mill. But
and content.
When things that cause that drive inside of us, that adrenaline rush, that at times it's a frustration. And Lyndon, you and I, we've talked a lot, and I've been able to vent, and some of the things that I've gone through. But it is that challenge. It's that mountain. And are we going to take the mountain, or are we going to let the mountain just stand in our way? And I can just tell you, being able to be bold and taking that mountain, you can climb it, you can take it. It's a good thing.
I love it. Brian, I feel like, in the little time that I've known you, you're definitely always up for the challenge, because you have mastered so many areas of your life and you're still going, and you're like, all right, what's next? Give it to me. Let me show you how I'm going to nail this part, this new chapter. And so I think you're kind of also a walking testimony to that. So kudos to you.
Thank you, Jackie. That's very kind. I like it. I have whiteboards all in my office. And then I have a portable one if 3 in my office are not enough, but I like to map it out. Well, guys, this has been a fantastic show. Jackie, we're going to have you on again, because we can, these topics are very, very good. They're apropos and definitely relevant for today and our lives and our business careers and even personally. So thank you so much for being a part of the show. I do want to thank Bavette Grill as well. They're one of our sponsors. They allow the show to happen, and they're absolutely fantastic restaurant. Just for my own personal taste, great restaurant, great family that owns it, great people. So I would encourage you to go to Bavette Grill, schedule or get your RSVP there, 8100 North Dallas Parkway, at Suite 115 in Plano, Texas. It's Bavette Grill, and you can't go wrong there. Everything on the menu is fantastic. So I encourage you to go and give it a try. And thank you so much for joining us today on Redefining Real Estate. We're going to bring topics that are relevant and will encourage and bring you hope. And if you have any suggestions, please reach out to us, give us a call. Let us know if you'd like to be a guest on the show, however we can do to help and reach out and extend a hand. That's what we're here for. So thank you again for joining in to Redefining Real Estate. I'm Brian Dobbs, and I'll see you next week.